Hey there, lead heads. Welcome back to another episode of the Talking Lead podcast, where we have been leducating the uneducated since 2012. And as due to you, the listener, the Leadhead Brigade out there, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for supporting us, supporting our sponsors throughout the years, and make sure you continue to do that. This episode is one I've been looking forward to, very excited about, and I know you leadheads are too. Our guest this episode is Jack Carr. For those of you who have been living under a rock for the last 2 years and don't know who Jack Carr is, you need to fix yourselves, and we'll try to help you do that this episode. But Jack has been tearing up the spy, political, thriller book genre for the last few years here with his series of books featuring his main character, James Reece. And we had Jack on a couple of years ago as episode 311. So if you want to go back to episode 311, listen to our first interview with Jack. We go over his first two books, The Terminal List and True Believer. And then this episode, we cover his next two books, Savage Son, which came out last year, and his soon-to-be-released The Devil's Hand, the fourth book in his James Reece series. And they get better and better each book, and I was really pleased with this. First two books I actually physically read, and then these next two I did the books on audio. And I don't know about you guys, but when I read, I hate kind of listening to myself in my head. So the guy that he's got reading his books, Ray Porter, does an excellent job, and I really got into him through the audiobook. So I'm going to go back to the previous two, The Terminal List and True Believer, and listen to those on audio too. But we've got Jack on. We're going to be talking about his books, and we're also going to be talking about his TV series with Amazon Prime that's getting ready to be released, starring Chris Pratt and a whole slew of other big-name Hollywood stars, like Taylor Kitsch, who was in Lone Survivor, played Mike Murphy. We also talk about his new podcast, Danger Close, and a whole lot of other things. So this is a really good interview with Jack. I know you guys are going to enjoy it as much as I did. We've got Brian Keeney with Occam Defense Solutions joining us, and then we've also got Dwight Settle, who is a former Navy SEAL, and with SEAL One, sponsors of the Talking Lead podcast, and Charlie Melton, also former Navy SEAL, longtime friend, longtime leadhead. Charlie's been on the show several times, so you leadheads know who Charlie is as well. But it's going to be a really good interview. Looking forward to doing it. We couldn't have done this without our sponsors, and really stepping up and making this episode happen is our longtime friends over at 1776 United. They are the providers of the officially licensed Talking Lead logoed T-shirts. We've got our original logo and the Leadhead Brigade logos that they have been cranking out for years now. They've got them back in stock. They were out there for a while, but they're back in stock now. So go check them out, 1776 United, and all their other line of awesome, 2A lifestyle clothes and kit and gear that they've got there. James over at 1776 is a good friend, and they have been taking care of you leadheads for many years now. So go show them some love. Let them know how much you appreciate them jumping on and making this episode possible. Along with Factory 47, FAKTORY 47.com. And you've heard me mention them on our AK Corner series, where we have collaborated with James. Again, another James. Just makes it easier for me if everybody's got the same name. James over at factory47.com, we collaborated with him, and he is producing our officially licensed AK Corner swag. So we've got T-shirts, we've got hoodies, and we've got tumblers over there. And the T-shirts, we've got men and women's cut T-shirts. Really cool design that we've got with the AK Corner logo. And then on the back, it's got all the cool factory, AK-47 factories from around the world, their logos on there, like Circle K and Mahdi and Fabrica Brony, the K3, Circle K3 logo, Ishmash, and a whole lot more. Factory47.com, you can get our officially licensed AK Corner shirts, hoodies, tumblers there. The tumblers are awesome. There's two different sizes that you can get. There's like a highball size, and then there's a larger size. that you can get on that for the big gulps. And then, of course, all their other cool T-shirts that are the AK-47 lifestyle branded type stuff. So go check them out. They've got hats, they've got T-shirts, they've got flags, all kinds of cool stuff over at factory47.com. And use that code LEADHEAD at Factory47, and you're going to get 10% off. So James is taking care of you, Leadheads. Go show them the love. Go follow them on Instagram. But the best thing you can do is go buy the products. And that's how you can support this show, too, is buy our logoed products from 1776 United and Factory 47. So without further ado, let's get into this kick-ass interview with New York Times best-selling author, former Navy SEAL, Mr. Jack Carr.
All right.
Hello, Jack.
What's happening?
There he is. Hello.
What's up, guys? Good to see you again.
You too, man. Welcome back.
What's happening? Let's see here. What am I going to turn? So we're connected. I'm turning that. Come on. Showing down here.
Eat up.
All right. We got it. This is awesome. Okay. Volume.
You're getting good at this, man. Since last time. It's been, what, 2 years since we had you on last?
Is that what it is? 2 years now? Man, what a crazy 2 years.
It's been too long. Too long. Mm-hmm. You've done a lot of good things. We got a lot to talk about, man. A lot to get caught up on.
Yes, we do. So, yeah. Coming down some lunch real quick?
No, that's fine. Let me introduce you to the crew here. Brian Keeney, he's got the microphone over to my left. He's waving at you now. He's with Occam Defense Solutions. I think you're following him on the grounds.
I feel like we talk every day. I see you every day.
Yeah. Your support is really appreciated. Thank you.
Man. No, you're same way. Same with yours.
And then up top, we've got Dwight Settle. Dwight is with SEAL 1, and he's a former Navy SEAL also.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Reunion.
Always, yeah.
Give him your bona fides there, Dwight.
I'm an old guy. You're just an FNG. I was in class 104.
Whoa, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, retired in 99, and was a West Coast guy. And 10 years ago, started the company SEAL 1, which it's a gun cleaning product.
Yeah,
bio-based, non-toxic product, and just trying to make a living doing that. Because I could never string two words together in thought on paper, So it was
awesome. Awesome. No, yeah, I've seen that. I've seen your stuff somewhere, all over the place actually. So yeah, that's very cool. Very cool.
Well, I wanted to say I hadn't read your books yet, but I did get them on audio so that I could.
Oh, nice.
Because
audio is the way to go, Dwight.
I'm flying this weekend, so I was like, all right, cool. I'm going on a trip. I can listen to them, and I know Wes Inskeep has been telling me, and I've been listening to him, and he's been saying, yeah, you gotta get these. So I was like, all right, I will get on it, and
very cool. Very
try that.
He's great. He just texted me this morning. I haven't had a chance to get back to him because I've signed like 600 books in the other room in the middle of signing. I have all these other cases going out to different people. Anyway, it's crazy. 1,000 book plates. So it's like everything's for the last
shows.
Second. Yeah, just back from LA. So that was kind of crazy being out there. But we should just record this. Are we recording?
Yeah, I'm recording. Yeah.
Oh, recording. Cool. So we're on.
Are you cool if I do the video? Record the video too?
Yeah, do whatever you want.
Okay. I've never done that before, but I thought I'd try it. See how it works. If it sucks,
hey, can you hear me?
I won't use it. Charlie, you in?
What's up? How you doing, brother?
Charlie.
Dwight, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Yourself?
Outstanding.
So, Jack, Charlie joined us last time you were on, back in 2019.
Yeah. Remember, I was in Florida on the book tour. I think I was in.
You were in a hotel room or something.
Was I in a hotel room? Yeah, I think I was at that stage, but at the SEAL Museum, I think I just done the SEAL Museum.
Yes.
I was going to it or coming from it or something like that.
Yeah, but you had talked about your experience there. We did the planes and trains, the jack wagons and heroes, and you put them on the hero portion.
Oh, nice. But yeah, good to be on again. This is crazy. It's been a busy couple of years, that's for sure.
Yeah, so I think at the time, Terminal List had been out for about a year, and then you were just releasing True Believer.
That's right.
And the whole reason this came together was one of our listeners was a fan of yours, and he had emailed me and said, "Hey, you need to get Jack Carr on your show." I was like, "Okay, I would love to do that. I don't know who Jack Carr is. I don't know how to get in touch with him." I said, "If you can make it happen, we'll do it." And
how did somebody do it? They reached out on email? I forget how that happened.
He reached out to Simon & Schuster via email.
Nice.
And just said, "Hey, I'm a listener of this podcast called Talking Lead. Would love to get this guy on." And it went from there. And I had him on. He was on the show with us also. So
nice.
As a reward, I was like, "You get to be on the show, brother."
There we go. Yeah, good deals for good steals.
That's right, man. We like to reward our listeners here, definitely.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's kind of where we started it back 2 years ago, back in 2019, and you just kind of exploded, ever since then. Hit the ground running.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Been a busy. We may have talked about this before, but what I didn't realize going in to that first novel in particular was that as an author, you have to do everything you'd have to do with any business. I thought you just went to a cabin in the mountains and wrote and sent it to New York, and they published, and you started your next one. And I didn't realize that you have to do all the branding, all the marketing, all the budgets, all the social media, all the engagements, everything you'd have to do if you're starting a coffee shop or no matter what it is. So I realized that fairly quickly. Because Simon & Schuster, they do some things, and they do some things very well, particularly the legacy media side of things. They have limited assets. I mean, they have to prioritize how they're going to allocate their assets and their support. And publishing is very much like the movie industry in that the Avengers pays for everybody else, like in Hollywood, like all those other movies that don't make their money back. Avengers pays for them. Same thing in publishing. It's Stephen King. It's John Grisham. It's those names that that pay for everybody else.
Paying the bills. Yeah.
Yeah. So luckily, all mine have made their investment back, which is semi unusual. So that's great. Simon & Schuster is very happy with that, of course. But it's so. Yeah.
What do they have to be upset about? Nothing.
But it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. It's so you have to do all those things. And so that has taken. Well, first you have to kind of study it, realize that that's the case. And as I've seen a lot of authors who kind of sit back and just complain about their publicist, complain about their publishing house, not getting support. Just like anything else in life, you can sit around and complain, or you can kind of study the landscape and figure out how to maximize certain opportunities that are out there. Particularly now, regardless of the industry, we can do things we couldn't do 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and we can do this for what we're doing right now. And you can create something of value on social media platforms to bring people in and grow your readership. Or if you're like a coffee shop, your drinking ship, you can caffeinate people. But it's just ways.
I've noticed that about you that you've really caught on to, that side of things. The marketing side of things, the self publicity, where you were getting on everybody's podcast. You were doing all the podcasts. You were making the tours. You're doing the TV shows. But then as you got into the more social media, you started that Instagram page, and that Instagram page has just exploded. And doing the live feeds that you do, the book reviews, and things like that, the YouTube channels, and then now you've started your own podcast too.
That's right.
Damn you! I don't need the competition.
Well, I did that for a while because on Instagram or whatever, I get these questions, and some of them are baiting and some of them are troll, but some of them are people that are sincerely interested, and I don't necessarily want to answer because a one-sentence answer doesn't lend itself to productive conversation and exploration of a lot of these topics with no voice intonation, no body language, no facial expressions, that sort of thing. So I wanted to do the podcast to explore some of those things that are more appropriately explored via a long-form conversation like we're having now. Right. So I wanted to do that for a while. So that's really the reason I'm doing the podcast. It's called Danger Close, Beyond the Books with Jack Carr, and that drops every Wednesday. And also I've just stumbled into some amazing people over the years. So now I get to share some of those conversations. And once again, it's something an author couldn't do in 1965, 75, 85, 95. So we can today. So really, I just looked at all this kind of like a just like I would on the battlefield, looking for gaps, looking for looking at ways to capitalize on momentum, that sort of thing. Aggressively solve problems, adapt, just like the enemy's always doing to us. So I just apply all that to hey, publishing, okay, but who in publishing is really doing any of that? Not many people. Okay, let me look to some other industries. Like, why is getting my iPhone such a different experience than getting my BlackBerry? So that's why I have these. So I took that from Apple and was like, okay, I'm going to send these books out. I'm going to make an experience for people. So in the other room, I have these SKB cases with books in there and some other stuff. So when it arrives, someone gets to share that with their audience. So so they get to open that and share. It just makes it easy for them to want to share and want to help you expand your readership. So things like that. How does Red Bull launch a new drink? Like nothing to do with publishing.
It's an experience. They make it an experience.
Yeah, exactly. But I can take these little lessons from different segments of industry and apply them, or take what's appropriate and apply them and make it my own in an authentic way, and then expand the readership through those mediums. So
now, are you using book bunnies to sell your books too, like Red Bull?
I'm not against it, but you got to be selective.
Right. You got to choose the right ones, but. You've definitely got the momentum going, and it continues to roll. And we want to talk about your new book, Devil's Hand. I don't know how deep we can get into it. Are we going to do a spoiler show here? Or are we going to do just a tease? Because I guess that would depend on when I release it too. So whatever we talk about would depend on when I release it. Bless you.
Thank you. Bless you. The new book, Devil's Hand, comes out April 13th, and in hardcover, in audio, read by Ray Porter, who's amazing. He plays Darkseid in the new Snyder Cut version of Justice League.
Oh, is that him in that?
Yeah, he's fantastic. Such a great guy.
Oh my gosh, that is such a great redo. That's like the smartest thing they ever did was the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. It's like I went to go watch it because Ray and I are good buddies now, and then I saw 4.5 hours. I'm like, I need to prioritize some other things.
But you got to break it up like your books,
Yeah, exactly. So this one is so each book has had a distinctly different theme. The first one, The Terminal List, that they're making into a series with Chris Pratt right now in LA, that was really about revenge without constraint. And the second one, True Believer, that we talked about last time, is really a journey of redemption. And then Savage Son, which is the one I wanted to write first, but I knew the characters weren't developed yet to the place where I could explore the themes of Savage Son, about the dark side of man, explored through the dynamic of hunter and hunted. And I wanted to write that one since 6th grade when I read The Most Dangerous Game, which is a short story by Richard Connell, written back in 1924. And even in 6th grade, I knew I was going to one day write a tribute to that short story. So that was Savage Son. And then for this one, for Devil's Hand, I wanted to take a breath and think about explore what I thought about in the SEAL teams quite a bit, what I continue to think about today as a citizen and as an author, and that is, what has the enemy learned by watching us on the field of battle for the last 20 years at war? So if I was Iran, if I was China, if I was Russia, if I was North Korea, if I was a super empowered individual, if I was a terrorist organization, what would I have learned by watching us in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Syria, other hotspots around the world, and what would I have applied to future battle plans? So that became the foundation, because essentially we've been playing poker. Our enemies have been circling, looking at our cards, looking at how we're playing those cards, taking notes, applying those to their future battle plans. So I wanted to explore that, and I outlined it in August of 2019. So when I was on my way to and from Russia, where I was doing some research for Savage Son, I left my computer behind, left my phone behind, because I didn't want, who knows what people have sent me over the years, and I didn't want actually to suck out all the information or physically take those things. So I just bought a sat phone and my notepad, and in my notepad I outlined The Devil's Hand with that foundation. And when I got home, part of the plot is about infectious diseases and the weaponization of infectious diseases. And so I got into the history of that.
What timing?
Yeah, this is August of 2019. And so I get into the history there, and hey, what did the Japanese do in World War II? Who did they use their bioweapons against? Where did that data and research go at the end of the war? Same thing with the Germans. What data and research from those two countries informed the U.S. and Soviet Union bioweapons programs? What did it mean when we were signatories to conventions in the 70s? Like all these things. So when COVID hits, I am hypersensitive to it. I hear about it in December, a little more at the end of January, and then of course by February we all have heard of it, and then of course March, kids are home from school, everything's shut down.
Yeah.
So because of what the story was about, because of that foundation, where I'm putting myself in the enemy's shoes and essentially red selling the last 20 years from the outside, from their position, well, they are learning something from our response to COVID. Then summer of civil unrest hits. Guess what? The enemy is looking at that as well. They're taking lessons in corporate. Exactly. And then a very contentious political season, an election cycle. Well, guess what? They're not just looking at that with a passing interest. They are taking notes and they're applying that to future battle plans. So as I'm writing, things are happening in real time that I have to incorporate into the story because of what that story is about. Because
it's an evolving story as you're getting
into it,
because you're like, this opportunity is rare, which you probably had a direction that you were going to go with it until that hit, right? And then maybe you're like, I need to change direction.
Yeah, the foundation was the same, but if let's say 2020 hadn't happened, then the story would still be similar.
Love that.
The enemy would, but it would just be focused on what they'd learned really from 1979 up to 2001, which was one paradigm, and then from 2001 up to today, which is another paradigm when we're talking about terrorism and insurgencies. So that would have been in there, right. But there wouldn't have been a COVID piece. There probably wouldn't have been a civil unrest piece. There probably wouldn't have been, I guess it would be the election craziness regardless. So that would have made it in, but the enemy was learning, and if I had a different topic, if it was a different storyline, then I'd have to wrestle with, hey, do you incorporate COVID into this just because it's at the forefront of everyone's mind or not? And most authors that I've heard aren't going to incorporate it in because they're going to, they say they want to give their readers an escape. But for me, if the enemy is learning from this, and that's the whole point of the story, well, it's got to be in.
You're giving more insight, and that's valuable than just trying to ignore it and get an escape. Teaching a lesson.
Yeah.
Jack, Hey, Jack, is Garrett Golden working with you on any of that stuff?
He is. Yeah,
Garrett's
cool. Awesome. Yeah, Garrett is a stud. He's been a dear friend for years, former SEAL, and he's out there. He's Antoine's Fuqua's personal technical advisor. So we have a technical advisor doing through all the, setting up all the explosions and the gunfights and all that stuff, who's also a dear friend, Ray Mendoza from the SEAL teams. And so he's
Ray's a good buddy of mine, too.
Awesome. Yeah, he's so good. So good at what he does.
Small world.
And then Garrett's, so we have Ray doing that side of it, and then we have Garrett also. So you have the sanity check on, and they're both fantastic. It was like a reunion on set there. We had like 10 SEALs that with over the years.
Oh, that's awesome.
Charlie must be outside.
I am outside.
I hear your wind chimes.
Oh yeah.
Charlie's awesome. A free nature.
Jack, I'm curious if there was any pucker factor with incorporating how much you stressed over that COVID decision, because you can't tell the future. And, the book, I think you nailed it, and everything is really synergistic there. But I can imagine a couple situations where that could be like a fart in church if history changes in some way. And did you sweat over that much, or was that just something you made the decision and you moved on?
Yeah, so made the decision and move on. So the incorporating it in, that was going to happen. There was no way not to incorporate it in because of the theme of the novel, because of that basis for the novel. But some of the more specific things I had to decide was like, well, when this book comes out in April, and I'm writing it here and I'm finishing it up in October, November, December timeframe, what's the country going to be like? Will we be able to walk into stores without masks on, with masks on? Like what? Just some of those little smaller details that I kind of had to take a guess and an educated guess and predict. So I used that thinking that's going to come out in April. People will still be picking it up in May, June, July, August, September. So I wrote it in a way that people are looking back on COVID as like, hey, we're not all the way through it, but if we are all the way through it, then there's still these lingering thoughts in people's heads about it. So I had to think, okay, what, if we do pass through this and restrictions are lifted, but there are some residuals. So I used it that way. And luckily it seems to be working out.
Yeah, totally. So related to that, it strikes me that there's sort of two ways to write a novel. You could write it sort of out of place in time, by which I mean you would still have to talk about the general, let's say it's military technology. You'd still be talking about the general tech that's out there, or there's a way to link it very specifically to place and time in the way that you tend to when you talk about, oh, my buddy's at Dead Air or Silencer Co. or something like that. And you do these really fun sort of inside joke shout outs to people that is not a style of writing that you would see with Hemingway or something, but it is a style that you would see with a lot of other great, you know, the guys that have sort of been mentors one way or another to you, like, Brad Thor does this to I think he enjoys putting a little bit of cheese into his writing, like, and it's fun and nobody's taking themselves too seriously. It strikes me that you sort of are splitting the difference there between an out of place and time kind of thing, more of a Hemingway, and trying to strike that middle ground. Is that conscious, or is that just, you know, the way it comes out of your head?
Yeah, no, it's natural in that, you know, I love talking about some of these things that are a part of me, but before the military, during and after, really that interest in gear and going farther and faster into the backcountry and making sure my guys had the best stuff that they possibly have going down range, that I didn't just sit around and wait for the military to issue us something. I went to, you know, SHOT Show from 2004 on every chance I got to see what what the private sector is doing, and hey, what can I get? What can I get away with? Who's going to give me some stuff maybe to try out that I can bring down range because I don't have enough money to buy it, that sort of thing. So I always wanted to, just like as a kid, wanting to go farther and faster into the backcountry with my parents. So it's like, oh, an internal frame pack. What's this in like 1987 or 1988? You know. Right. Well, I'm going to get some of that. I'm going to test that out. But same thing. It's just always been a part of me. So that's natural to incorporate. And then it's also very natural for me to just write and incorporate the feelings and emotions behind things that I was involved with downrange. So rather than having to track down a SEAL sniper from Ramadi in 2005, 2006, and then having someone introduce us, and then sitting him down for an interview, and then filtering his answers to my questions through whatever biases and life experiences and preconceived notions that I have, and then taking that and applying it to a fictional narrative. That's not diluted. So for me, it's my experience and how I felt in certain situations downrange directly applied to a fictional narrative. So I think that's why really these books resonated with Simon & Schuster when they read that first one out of the thousands that they see every year. And then why it's resonating with readers, because, I mean, we talk about authenticity and that's an overused term, but there's not a better one for it.
Yep.
That's really what has resonated with people. And then also in my engagement online, to go a little deeper, to go a little kind of behind the books, behind the chapters, behind the gear, behind some of the situations that inspired some of these chapters, then I get to share that journey, which I couldn't have done 30 years ago. So very, very to me anyway, as I go about this process.
One of my favorite writers who did that, he might have been one of the pioneers of it, is Frederick Forsyth. And I've definitely, you know, like Dogs of War and Day of the Jackal, he goes into like extreme detail on how to like create fake IDs and that kind of thing. Is he a conscious influence of yours? I think I've seen his books put up on your, you know, in your feed and lit reviews and stuff, but in the pantheon of sort of your literary gods, where does he sit?
Yeah, no, he is up there. And I mean, obviously, all these guys, all these giants of the thriller genre influenced me in one way, shape, or form. They all moved the genre forward in one way, shape, or form, some more than others. And I was able to experience their work as I grew up. I didn't just wake up one day as I was getting out of the SEAL teams and say, I'm going to give this writing thing a try. Well, let me read a few books in the genre. I grew up reading these books. I grew up reading, knowing that I wanted to be a SEAL, knowing that I wanted to serve my country in uniform, and also knowing that one day I would write thrillers. And that's because I was having such a good time reading those authors growing up in the 80s and 90s. I think at age 10, I started to read what my parents were reading, which is when Hunt for Red October came out. So I'm reading Tom Clancy and Nelson DeMille and David Morrell and A.J. Quinnell and J.C. Pollock and Mark Olden and all these guys who had protagonists with backgrounds I wanted in real life one day. And typically back then they had Vietnam experience. It was either a SEAL in Vietnam, an Army Special Forces guy in Vietnam, some sort of a CIA operative in Vietnam. But that was kind of the MO for back then for creating these characters. And I just loved that. And I loved the magic of those books because I was was reading them at a time that was so impactful to me, and I was so impressionable during that time period from age 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, like during that time frame. And my mom was a librarian, so I grew up with this love of reading anyway. I know I'm going to the military, so I'm also reading all the nonfiction. I'm reading books on warfare and terrorism and counterinsurgency and magazine articles about these things. And some of my first memories are of the Iranian hostage crisis and Americans blindfolded coming out of the embassy, Walter Cronkite counting down those days. I remember the Newsweek and the Time magazine coming in with TWA 847 with the Marine barracks bombing. Later on, late 80s, the Pan Am 103. So all these things were very impactful to me.
Dwight probably had some hand in some of that stuff, huh?
He might have been there. He might have been for a few of those on the tarmac for the Achilles Laurel and that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, I just knew that was going to be, the enemy of the future for me and for my generation. And so I didn't just see these things as like, oh, wow, look at what's happening in the world. It was like, okay, I'm studying these things. So I looked at it with a different lens, even at a very young age, because it was all prep. And then I didn't really look at the reading that I was doing with those authors I just mentioned as prep. Though looking back now with the benefit of hindsight, I was giving myself an education in the art of storytelling from masters of the craft. Yeah. And some of them I'm dear friends with now, like David Morrell, who created Rambo with First Blood back in 1972. Where do we talk every week? Nice. And Stephen Hunter, who created Bob Lee Swagger with Point of Impact. We talk almost weekly as well. We started our book tours together in 2019. So it's such an honor for me now. Stephen Pressfield, talk to him all the time. These guys that I've looked up to my whole life as my heroes are now the peers and friends and mentors, which is, to me, it's humbling, and it's such an honor. So yeah, I'm a lifelong reader. I'm a fan of the genre first and foremost, which has allowed me to make this transition from the military to doing this writing that I love to do, this next passion in life, because I had that foundation of reading, because I had that academic study of warfare, because I had that experience in Iraq and Afghanistan actually leading men in combat. So all of that came together at the right time and place as I started down this path into publishing. So I don't think I could have prepared any better, even though a lot of it was an inadvertent effort preparing just because I love reading.
On that note, I'm sort of blown away at the amount of, I think in your interview with Jocko, you talked about your lifelong prep to be a SEAL, that it was extremely methodical. And now we're hearing about this, very methodical approach to being a writer. It's almost like you went through being a SEAL so that you could be a writer, which I know isn't really how it went, but it's funny. Yeah. And, it's one thing that strikes me is that in the way that you communicate and in your outward appearance, you communicate like a very, an outgoing sort of ADD type personality. But when I see your life history, it strikes me as the most squared away, detail oriented guy on the planet. And at the risk of asking too personal a question, what is, I don't understand how your brain works. Can you enlighten us a little?
I don't know if I can enlighten you on how my brain works, but a lot of it is just knowing that you have to do the work for any of this. It's not just going to happen. So even when I'm back in junior high and high school and I'm playing like soccer or I'm playing lacrosse or I'm running cross country, in my head I'm thinking, hey, how is this preparing me for my future in the SEAL teams, even in junior high, certainly in high school. Getting into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu early on in the early 90s before anybody knew really what it was. Like that, I'm like, okay, I got to learn how to find a ground game here. I don't have a really good ground game. I need to do this. What's this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu stuff? This is pretty interesting. Getting into the Filipino martial arts that has, you're hitting with sticks and blades, machetes and short knives, but they're all using certain angles. And so I was doing all in on that sort of thing. Boxing, getting in the ring, which boxing and doing and rolling, particularly in like tests with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where you have fresh people just cycling through. That's some of the toughest stuff I've ever done, to include Hell Week. And Hell Week, I would think back on that and be like, oh, remember when they had like all those like 20 people lined up and they all were fresh and they got to cycle through as you stayed there on the mat. And that was some of the toughest things I've ever done. So as I'm holding the boats in my head, I'm like, kind of isn't as bad as that. Like at least I got some thing up, on the mat. It's all you. So it's all just knowing that you have to do the work. You have to make that opportunity to get in the military. You have to go down to that recruiting office. You have to do your homework because oftentimes a recruiter is just there to get you to sign a piece of paper, and you have to. Like I knew more about getting into the SEAL teams and the dive fair program and the different options that were available than my recruiter did. So you have to do that research.
What is that? Hold on.
I think Charlie might. Somebody unmuted who ought to be.
Yeah, he's muted.
That's not me.
No, that's someone doing construction across the street of my house. I'll shut that front door.
Got it.
That's
Speaking
funny.
of construction, you building a new house, Jack?
So we're in a rental right now, and we're looking for. Unfortunately, when I guess August of 2020, mid-August, when everyone in New York and California found out their kids weren't going back to school, I think most of those states moved here to Park City, Utah. So, the scarcity of what's on the market right now is a bit of a challenge to try to find this our next place. So we're working on it. We have some leads, but
I think you just moved in a place. Last time we talked back in 2019, you just settled in to Utah.
Settled in, sold that place, and it ended up being a beautiful house, but kind of one of those places that photographs well. But when it comes down to it, especially if you have kids, if you have one with we do with some severe special needs that needs 24/7 full-time care forever, it didn't work out the way we thought when we moved in there. So we're looking for a place that's better situated for him in particular, but for the other kids as well. So we have some lessons learned, just
there
like. Important to get those lessons learned and then apply them to future decisions, which in this case will be the new house.
The new house, yeah, definitely. Well, the place you're at looks great. I mean, it kind of fits in with the whole motif of your character, James Reece.
Yep. No, I had a great office in the last house that people were very fond of during these interviews, and I had my books behind me, and I had tomahawks and all this stuff. But in this one, so I knew I couldn't just move into a rental and just say it was a rental and have a blank wall behind me or with one thing back there. I had to church it up a bit. So I love being surrounded.
You did good. You did good. It looks good. I'm proud of
this thing here is these are casings right here. So they're all used. This is 9mm right here.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so that's pretty.
That is awesome.
Yeah, thing's heavy. I don't know how it's still on the wall. I think it's super heavy.
That's
but
beautiful.
pretty cool.
Yeah. So with with all the, I guess, opportunities that this has afforded you with the books, the popularity of them and the success of them, the TV shows, I know people are falling over themselves to send you product and do this, do that. What's something, and even as Navy SEALs, Dwight and Charlie can attest to this, just being a Navy SEAL kind of opens up doors that normally wouldn't open for other people. But take that on top of your success as an author. What kind of things have opened up that maybe you weren't really expecting?
That's a very good question. I didn't. I always, I guess, assumed is the wrong word, but I always, growing up, I didn't get discouraged by people who told me how tough it is to be a SEAL. As I went along in life, I didn't get discouraged as I was getting out and started telling people that I was writing how hard it is to be published by a New York publishing house, or how tough it is to make the New York Times list, or how tough it is to see some of your work adapted to the screen. So I didn't pay any attention to that sort of thing. I paid attention to it as that I nodded my head, but I didn't then go back and didn't worry about any of that. I didn't worry about getting published. I didn't worry about it making the New York Times. That's not true. I did worry about it not making the New York Times list, because that's a little bit of an editorial in that thing. That's a fascinating list in and of itself. So I didn't really worry about it not being adapted to screen. I just knew that it would. And I knew that Chris Pratt would star. That's the other crazy part. I knew that Antoine Fuqua would direct. Which is insane now looking back. But
is that before Chris Pratt was in Guardians of the Galaxy?
That was before Guardians of the Galaxy, before Avengers, before Jurassic World. It was when he was Andy on Parks and Rec and had a very small role in Zero Dark 30.
Very small role.
I knew he needed.
So you were seeing the character from Parks and Rec as James Reece. That's funny.
Yeah. So I knew, because I saw him and I knew that he had the Zero Dark 30 role.
Yeah.
And even though it was small, I knew, hey, this guy's going somewhere. And I thought about how Tom Hanks in the 80s did all that comedy. And then he takes a risk with Philadelphia in the early 90s. And from then on, he can write his own ticket. So I was like, hey, who's that guy that right now needs to do that, needs to take that risk? Because what I'm doing, it's a life of taking risk and committing to things. So who's that actor that needs to do the same? And I was like, Chris Pratt, that's the guy. He's likable. The guys like him. The ladies like him. And he can pull this off. He needs to do something dark. He needs to do something primal. He needs to do something visceral and violent, and to prove that he has more range as an actor. And he is absolutely crushing it. Like, I was so impressed on the set.
Can imagine.
It's so awesome to see him bring this character to life. It's just awesome.
Yeah, can you talk about where they're filming that? Are they doing it in California, or where are they doing it?
Yeah, in and around LA. There was 350 people on set. So I was there for 7 days, got there to quarantine for 2, and then got tested 4 times over that 5-day period for COVID. So they're really being strict, because if anybody gets COVID, they have shut down production.
Yeah.
And it's a significant amount of money that gets lost every day with shutting down a production like that. So yeah, it's it was really cool seeing that 350 people have jobs in LA, because Chris and Antoine took a risk on doing this.
There are other cities that are thriving in the filming industry right now. Atlanta being one of those. Hopefully they'll continue to thrive, even though people are chastising them for changing their voting laws or updating their voting laws, which is sad. The MLB moved out. Yeah, I was just curious as to where you guys might be filming and how welcoming California is right now.
Yeah, I think like in and around Louisiana, or in and around New Orleans, I think Louisiana is doing a lot, I think. But yeah, I think this one in California is the biggest thing going on in California right now, because there are so many restrictions, and like half the budget went to COVID restrictions.
Yeah,
luckily, it's
crazy.
Luckily, it's a gigantic budget. We'll see. It's crazy. They're gonna film. They have months and months of filming, and then it goes into post production, and hopefully they have somebody. Also, they have all these technical advisors on set, all these SEALs on set, but we need a few of those guys in the editing room. So now I'm much more forgiving when I see something get messed up when I'm watching Netflix or something. I'm much more forgiving. With 350 people on a set, it is so easy for something to get messed up. Yeah. So now I'm much more forgiving. Now I get it. Now I can see how that can happen. To include in the editing room, when someone's editing that doesn't know that, hey, these guys are doing it right, but the camera angle makes it look like they're not doing it right or something. And they just put it in because they think it looks cool. But for somebody with a trained eye, they're like, oh, look at that. But it's just the angle. So I can totally see how that happens with multiple opportunities.
I'm very nitpicky when it comes to movies. But at the same time, I realize that they're for escapism, for the most part. But when you're watching a movie like this, like TV series, TV movie, whatever you guys are categorizing it as, people are going to be very scrutinous. They're going to scrutinize the hell out of this. And are you ready for all that? That you already get enough hate online anyway, or in negative reviews and that sort of thing. So I'm sure that people will take issue, because a lot of people just are looking to be angered and outraged and not like something instead of looking at the part like, hey, I like this because I'm looking at the things I do like about this. They look for the things that they don't like. That part of human psychology is fascinating to me, because you only have a certain amount of time on this planet, and you don't know if it's a day or a week or a month or 10 years. You have no idea, but you get to choose how you spend that time. And someone actively chooses to look at something subjective and take the negative from it and writes and spend time, like on Amazon reviews, 3 paragraphs about how horrible you are because you mentioned something about gun culture, so you must be X, Y, and Z, and they took that time to be that hateful. Yeah. And okay, I mean, you get to choose. And people read that crap too, and that's why people do it too, and that's what's disheartening about it.
I love those, because for every person that takes the time to do that and write how much they hate the gear, they hate the guns, or they all that sort of thing, that sells it to somebody else who loves that stuff. That's my guy. So thank you to everybody that leaves the negative ones, because you're helping.
I like that on your the videos that you do, and you read the comments and the feedback. You read the negative ones too, I
the
really
only one
enjoy
I
those.
got on Amazon because that's all I really have time to skim is Amazon. There are other places I guess you can leave reviews, but I don't even look at those. And like for my podcast, I have the Ironclad Media is producing it, so they're looking at those. I just don't have time to look at the comments. There's so much going on, it's crazy. So they can look at those comments. I've decided not even to look there just because I don't know when I would do it. There's just zero time for that sort of thing. I got to focus all my energies and efforts into making book 5 the best it can be, which I'm in the middle of right now.
I heard a great wisdom a while back that this will sound like I'm out of left field for a moment, but that the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is apathy. You don't care one way or the other. These people, and I get the same thing with my product, which is also a subjective thing. Like best is, the best gun out there is purely a subjective statement. So I don't take it personally when somebody doesn't want to buy what I have. So, it's funny to hear you talking about it in the same way. But when I come across these people that just spend a ton of time telling me about what's wrong, I thank them profoundly for how much they care about our work. And that just makes them even more furious. So I do get some Schadenfreude out of it, but you're saying kind of the same thing there, that it is interesting how much people care about letting you know that they're unhappy. Yeah.
Love the term too, taking pleasure from someone else's misery.
Yeah. It's a good one.
It is a good one. German and Arabic, I think, are the only 2 languages that have a word for it.
Oh, really?
I think so. Yeah. Someone can fact check me on that, but I know that those 2 have a distinct word for that.
I'll take your word for it. I want to get to listener questions, but I want to make sure that if Charlie or Dwight have any questions, they could chime in here.
Well, actually, I'm just very impressed that you were saying from 6th grade you knew you wanted to write, you wanted to do this, and hell, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up, and I'm very much aware of also the negative connotations, because I'm like you, Brian. When people give the negative about the product, you're just, okay, well, thanks a lot. I'm glad you really thought that much about giving me that much information about how much you dislike it. And,
exactly.
It's so crazy. I mean, they could be out thanking someone for another product, or like if someone reads the first sentence in it, and actually my website has the first few chapters of each book, they can test drive it. Like, it's not going to change. Like, if you don't like that first sentence or that, don't spend any more time.
All right, stop.
The rest of the novel, stop and do something that you enjoy. Like, it's not all of a sudden gonna turn into something that's not there in the first few pages. Same thing with listening. Like, don't listen through all the way to the end if you hate the first chapter, first paragraph. There are plenty of other things out there and even other authors in this genre that just say you picked up a gun or picked up a knife or picked up a shotgun or whatever else with no background at all on any of that stuff. So that's out there, and it's not hard to find. So choices. It's all about options.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think people they find it much easier to be negative than to be happy. It's like people find it easier to frown than to smile, and
it's just like news. You rarely hear good news. It's always catastrophe and mayhem and. Then that's what sells news. It's kind of same thing with the social media these days. If it's not shocking, people don't want to read it or deal with it.
Yeah, crazy.
But your books are very shocking. It's just a very good, detailed. I don't want to say murder, but murder and mayhem. Yeah.
Very therapeutic to write these things, that's for sure.
I can imagine. So let's talk a little bit about, because we didn't talk about Savage Son. And I was talking to Brian the other day, and for me personally, again, it's subjective. Savage Son is my favorite of your works so far.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. I guess it kind of goes back into that, because I've always had a fascination with humans hunting humans and, that kind of thing too. I was watching some show the other day that was delving into it. And and they didn't quite do it justice, but your book does a really good job in kind of that mindset and what it takes for somebody to want to do something like that. Talk about, again, we know the reason why you did it, and you went to Siberia. Talk about some of your experiences in Siberia while you were there that played into the storytelling.
Yeah, so I knew I had to go to Kamchatka because so much action takes place there. For the first novel, for the terminal list, I'd been to Iraq, I'd been to Afghanistan, I'd been to most of the places that I write about in the continental United States in that novel. True Believer, I hadn't been to Mozambique. So even before I sent the first novel to Simon & Schuster, I was on a plane to Mozambique, put boots on the ground there, wanted to weave that local flavor into the novel. So I did that. And then for the second, because I was finishing up the second, and for the third, for Savage Son, I went to South Africa and helped train up an anti-poaching unit that's focused on protecting some of the last rhino on Earth. They were switching over to M4s and Glocks, two platforms that I have some experience with. So went over there and learned a ton from those guys. It was incredible. They a lot of them were older, and they caught the tail end of the bush wars. Well, first they'd grown up tracking animals for food. Then tail end of the bush wars where they tracked humans and hunted humans. Then they came back and the government was like, wow, we have all these veterans now that are unemployed, and they brought a lot of them into the national police force to do what would we think of as like CSI, going to a crime scene. And now instead of looking at a boot print in in the dirt or tracking an animal, now they're getting in the head of a suspect, of a perpetrator, looking at crime scenes. And then they kind of aged out of that. And a lot of them were snatched up by these different private concessions that are protecting some of these endangered species. So they got to take all of that experience and then apply it in a positive direction, which is something I used in The True Believer as James Reece learns to live again in the wilds of Mozambique. So anyway, I had this experience in Africa, and I'd been to the other places already. I'd been to Morocco, I'd been to Ukraine, I'd been to the other places that I write about. But I thought, because of this experience in Africa, where everyone wanted to tell me the story of their country, everyone wanted to talk to me, it seemed, about their personal experience growing up, the political climates, oftentimes tumultuous, particularly in Mozambique, the Chinese influence in mining operations, both illegal and illegal, all these things, the illegal wildlife trade. They wanted to talk to me about all of that, and they were amazing. So I thought it was going to be the same in Russia. Not the case in Russia. And I realized when I got hit the ground there so I'm asking questions that for most of Russian history, if someone's asking you, you're not long for this world. It's off to the gulag. It's in front of the firing squad. You're going to get re-educated. And that stayed with them. They're, in my limited experience, the people I talked to were very standoffish over there, because I'm asking, military stuff, intelligence stuff. I'm asking all these questions for a novel, and they think that they just don't want to answer these questions. Why is this guy answering? They're very suspicious. Why is he asking me these types of questions? But I went into the backcountry there and it was a fishing trip and a hunt, and I got to slowly wear them down and get a lot of information that I could then weave into to Savage Son. So it was interesting. And so for this fourth one, luckily it takes place mostly in the continental United States. So with everything shutting down for COVID, right about the time I'm getting deep into the writing, I didn't have to travel. I didn't have to go put boots on the ground anywhere, because I'd been to most of the places that I'm writing about. Now for the fifth one I'm writing now, I need the world to open back up, because I want to get to a couple different places out there so I can do some research, talk to some people, incorporate some local flavor into the story. So hopefully by the end of the summer, even though the book will be nearing completion at that point, I can kind of do what I did for Savage Son, which is go research, come back, and then weave some of this local flavor into the plot.
So Brian's getting ready to ask a question. Go ahead.
Oh, well, thank you. Am I correct in thinking you're a fly fisherman, at least in part?
I don't. So many people are so good, and so.
No, I understand. I
don't think of myself. I fly fish, so I fly fish.
Properly.
I'm not at that stage where I call myself a fly fisherman, even though I've been doing it for 30 years or so. I'm mostly self-taught. And when I went to Russia with this group that travels around the world fishing, man, these guys know what they're doing. And then I live here in Park City, and we have some serious fly fishermen. here in Park City. Like I have the gear, I know where to go. I kind of know what to do. But I definitely don't look like some of these guys who are just so in tune with it. But yes, I do fly fish. That's a long way of saying. Yes.
Yeah, so I had a similar walk and had a pretty serious tarpon addiction at one point when I made more money. And I think you're right. If I remember, you kill one of the bad guys in book 1 in the mangroves. So it seemed like you'd spent some time in the Keys. And my question was, of all the places you've gotten to go around the world, what has been your favorite species of fish to pursue? Because the way I think about at least flats fishing in the Keys, it's more like big game hunting with a bow than it is like anything else. It's very much like spot casting to fish, also with trout, but they're smaller. But it's very similar to the, what's that?
Yeah, spot and stock out there.
Yeah. So I
actually haven't even done that yet. I haven't done bone fishing, haven't done any of that stuff. But I had a friend that moved to Islamorada. So I spent some time down there with him. Another buddy bought a house in the Keys, farther south. So I've been down there. I've been fishing down there, but haven't done that particular type yet, just because it's been so busy. So what I really like to do is trout. I like that brown trout. I like to put my pack on and put the rod in that pack and head up into the mountains or head to a creek somewhere. I love going out to Colorado to do that. There's some land out there that I like to go fish, and some waters out there I like to spend time on. So try to get out there at least once a year to do that. But yeah, I think it's that, just because of what's around me, not necessarily for the actual action, but for what's around me and just being in the mountains and being in this just beautiful area. So I think that's probably it.
Well, and a 24-inch brown will stop your heart just as quick as a 5-foot tarpon. So it's all good stuff.
Yeah.
A half-pound brim stops mine. I'm happy to catch one of those. But I'm a deep sea fisherman. I like going out and getting those big suckers on the line, putting up a little fight.
Heck
nice.
Yeah.
There you go.
So let's go to some of our listener questions here. And this is brought to us by Factory 47 on Instagram. Here we're going to go. And 1776 United. I don't know if you saw my shirt. These are our classic Talking Lead logo T-shirts.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah. So we're going to be giving one of our listeners one of these shirts. We've got a Factory 47 logo shirt, which it'll have this logo on it. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Yeah, nice.
Actually, we're going to give away one of these mugs. That's what we're giving away.
Awesome.
Talking Lead AK Corner, 15th of every month. Make sure you listen. We just talk AKs during that one. So if you ever want to be on and talk AKs.
Yeah, well, I had to do some serious AK research for this one because so I'm getting to the end of near the end of the novel, and I'm incorporating an AK, Kalashnikov, and I was like, well, it has to tell a story. Like, I can't just say AK. It has to tell a story, particularly because of who's using it and how they're using it. And so I started doing my research. And luckily, I know people much more knowledgeable than I am on those platforms, so I get to reach out to Larry Vickers with the Vicker Guides. I talked to Clint Smith, who was actually shot by 7.62 by 39 in Vietnam. Jim Fuller, someone put me in touch with him. So I got to check all this AK stuff with people that really know what they're doing. And that made all the difference. So I have a specific AK from a specific part of the world that makes sense for the storyline. It's very unique. And I did a blog post on it in January when I was doing that research. So it's on my website if people want to scroll down a little bit and see how that went. But I went through a whole function check, and I'm like, man, I haven't really spent that much time on this platform. Like, I've shot it, I've done a little, course with it, but I don't have as much time on this as I do with an M4AR type platform. So I wrote it and was just like, man, I got to make sure that if an AK person reads this, that it rings true, that they're like, all right, hey, this guy did the research. He didn't just, say, like, kind of take what he does with his M4 and apply it to this platform that has some different, that you operate in a little bit different of fashion. So it's really cool doing that. Then I went down to Park City Gun Club because they have a fully automatic Kalashnikov down there that you can rent on their range. And so I went through the function checks as like Jim Fuller and these guys talked me through it, and I got how it feels, how it sounds, why you do it in a certain way. So that's all incorporated into the novel as well.
And that's the one coming up after Devil's Hand?
That's in Devil's Hand at the end. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, we haven't talked about the Devil's Hand yet. I guess we should talk about that maybe a little bit before we do the questions, or should we do the questions?
However you want. We talked a little bit about that base to it all.
Yeah, so let's go to the questions. Let's get some questions here. So this is from Mustang Perry. He said, I just wanted to say thank you to Jack Carr for your service and for writing such an amazing series of books. I'm looking forward to seeing the show when it is released, as we all are. If you can talk about it, I would like to know possible release date for the show, and if you know if they stayed too far from your great work. I guess did they stick to the source material?
Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly when it's coming out. Probably they haven't given me a date, and it can probably fluctuate anyway, based on a variety of factors. But sometime in 2022, I think. So yeah, it is different when you adapt something from the written word to a different medium, visual in this case. It's going to change, and I went in knowing that it was going to change. Like if you read the book First Blood, then see the movie First Blood, two distinctly different stories, but both awesome. And so that's
how much control did you have, and did you have in the changes that were made?
Yeah, zero. Because when Chris optioned this, I was not. When you don't have a series, you haven't created this universe yet. You haven't sold one book. You have zero following. You're not coming from politics. You're not coming from sports. You really don't have an option. And so I signed all creative control over. If you're like a Daniel Silva or somebody with 20 some odd books, or a Lee Child or somebody with like 24. Like if you have yeah, exactly. If you have this, you have a little more leeway to get that creative control. Me, I did not. But Chris wanted it gritty. He wanted it dark. He wanted it violent. He wanted to stay true to the novel like that. And then I helped with the first script. I've been an advisor on all the scripts. Really, the first script was me and the screenwriter writing that together. I was more of an advisor, but we worked together on that. And then he took it with Chris Pratt and Antoine Fuqua, and they went around to all the different streaming services and pitched it. And there was a bidding war, and it ended up at Amazon. Yeah. So officially, I have no creative control, but unofficially, I have been intimately involved with all of it, and even on set the other day, making changes on set, recommendations, I should say, on set. So
do they listen though?
Yeah.
Or they're just like, get this guy out of here.
No, it's interesting. I guess it all depends on your personality, or how you work with people, or those different intangibles. But we have a really cool scene is now back in it that was out for a while, so I'm super excited about that. I can't really talk about what that is.
Was that due to your persuasion?
Yeah,
you're like, come on guys, I really need this in there.
So
you just gotta do it in a thoughtful way, and
you gotta know your audience, right?
Yeah, and you gotta let things percolate, like develop on the field of battle. Kind of gotta let things develop. So you don't like rush into an ambush that has been set up for you because they're anticipating your next move. You gotta let things develop and make
stay fluid
decisions. Yeah, based on your experience, on your training, on all sorts of different factors out there. So same thing, but I'm super happy. And of course, you never know until it actually airs.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some people are just looking for a reason not to like it, like we talked about. But I could not be more excited about it. I could not be more happy with how they've adapted it, how it's changed from really a political thriller into more of a psychological thriller, which is a really cool way to tell the story, I think, especially when you're dealing with traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress and these drugs that are part of this conspiracy that I wrote about. So it's a great way to do it, and it could not be in better hands with Antoine and Chris.
Now, do you have access to Instagram right now?
Right.
Yeah.
I do.
Would you go to our Instagram page, and I want you to pick a question that you'd like to
all right.
You'd like to answer there. And while you're doing that, I'll read this one. This is from Kel-Tec Weapons. You know Chad at Kel-Tec?
I don't know. No.
So he says, who has the best 1,000-yard stare? Jack Carr, Rick Stewart, or Terry Huon?
Terry's pretty good. Yeah.
He said that's an inside joke. So.
And who wrote that one?
It's my buddy Chad at Kel-Tec Weapons.
Okay.
They're friends with Dana Lash.
working with Rick and those guys. They're doing some work together. So that's very cool. So yeah, Terry for sure, man. He's good people, and Rick's amazing as well. He's got the voice. So Rick's got the voice. So Terry's got the look.
He's got the stare.
And actually, at the risk of overcomplicating Jack's brain, I had a follow-up on that first question there. There was lots of wailing and gnashing of teeth among your most fervent followers when it was announced that Constance Wu was cast for Katie Burnick, and it has nothing to do with Constance Wu's name or skin color. It is the worry that Katie Burnick's storyline from Yugoslavia will be changed. People love, including myself, really great. Did that part? Can you speak to whether that plot line and that character was changed significantly?
Yeah, it's changed.
Okay,
for sure. But I have an open mind to all of this, and when you adapt something that you've created and hand it over to somebody else, there's a huge amount of trust involved. Sure. And so even though when I had this, I had other offers on the table and for more financially more beneficial, but I trusted Chris and Antoine with it for a reason. And maybe if I took those ones that were more financially beneficial back then, maybe it would never even get made. It probably.
Sure.
So you trust these guys to do with your work and to turn it into something that both you can be proud of and that they are proud of, attaching their name and attaching all that time to. They're investing time in this thing, that they could choose any project. So that storyline has changed, and I actually I think it's going to work out.
Great. Well, I think that we can all. If you're happy, I'm sure the fans will be happy too.
I was actually picturing her as Katie. Is it Katie Pavlich? She was just on your podcast.
She was. She's a dear friend, and
that is awesome. Who I was picturing Katie as in your books. Is something along those lines.
Yeah, I've heard that before from a few people.
Yeah. So I'm not disappointed in the character that they chose. Not at all. Well, I think she'll do an amazing job. Yeah.
I think too, any sadness that people have on the storyline changing, the fact that Taylor Kitsch is playing Ben Edwards, he's the guy from Friday Night Lights that gets his back broke.
Lone Survivor, come on.
Yeah, he's in
Mike
a bunch
Murphy.
of stuff.
Exactly, he's awesome.
Yeah, that's right.
Ray Mendoza did a lot of the fight stuff for that, technical advising for that, and now they're back together on the set. So Taylor's amazing.
I was excited to hear that he was going to be on it.
Yeah, he's a perfect choice for Ben Edwards. Riley Keough plays Reese's wife. She's incredible. She reached out. Jean Triplehorn, so cool. She reached out, texting me. Like, they've been also nice to know. I have a call with, they haven't announced who it is yet, but with the person who's playing Liz Riley. So she's calling here in a couple hours just to talk things through. And everybody's been so cool awesome. and so normal. That's the other part. Like, everybody's been so normal. Which you don't really know what to expect if it's your first time down the path, and all you do is see them on extra, or as you're walking through the supermarket, see them on the cover of a magazine or whatever. You just don't know. But everybody's been beyond cool, beyond amazing. Yeah,
that's really cool.
Just real normal, just normal people who happen to be actors.
Just happen to have a different career path. Yeah.
I'm sure that's not everybody. I'm sure there are some crazy people out there too. Like, I've seen a few people on Letterman back. Or Leno or late night shows, you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
So I'm sure those do exist, but my experience thus far, everybody's been just someone you want to have a beer with.
Yeah, nice.
Did you make it to the Instagram?
I am right there. Yep.
Yeah. So,
the one of you holding up the book.
Just see if,
The one of you holding up the book. That one.
Sure. Yeah. Let's do that one.
Oh, I don't see any questions under there.
Oh no! It's the one before that one.
Okay, got it. All right. Oh, man. Let's see. Will there be more humor added in since Chris Pratt is starring? So I don't know, because I only saw the first episode there. In the scripts, no. But I don't know if once kind of like a plan. You're making a plan around a table, sounds great, and then you go out there and situation terrain dictate that you adapt. Same thing on the set. You get out there and what looked good on paper just isn't working for whatever reason, or there's a better way to do it based on some changes you made to a past script that you just did in the previous episode. So there's a lot of intangibles to figure out, a lot of changes that occur throughout the whole process that you need to incorporate as you go. So I haven't noticed it in the script, and Chris is rocking it. So dark, so violent. It's friggin' awesome. Just I'm so fired up just thinking about it. So I don't know if there'll be some humor incorporated in there. I mean, he's an awesome guy.
It's got to be.
Wouldn't be surprised if he incorporates a little humor. I incorporated a little humor into the novel, not too much in the first one, but it's how you develop characters.
It's something that I've noticed too as it's progressed, and especially in this last one, there's a lot more humor, especially with the two stooges that are Tail and James. Those two guys crack me up. I love those. Yeah,
so those guys. So when I start writing, I write down the names of all the characters and their position. So like, so-and-so president of the United States, so-and-so director of the CIA, so-and-so director of the FBI, whatever that is. So I have the names, so I can look at the names and be like, okay, that one sounds too close to this one. Let me change that. It's not going to work. And so that sort of thing. So I have it there, but I don't have their personalities attached other than recurring characters like my protagonist, James Reece, of course, Rafe Hastings, Katie, like these ones that have this, already have personalities. But when I start writing, then as I start, particularly in the dialogue, when I have characters getting to know each other or having a conversation, it's like we are now, we're getting to know each other. Well, same thing on the page. I get to know these characters based off this conversation they're having, and I haven't written any of that in the outline. Like there's not, the outline is a guide, some beginning, middle, end, some things I want to incorporate, that sort of thing. But I don't have, hey, so-and-so is going to have a conversation. It's going to be humorous. Okay, next. Like that's not like it at all. That just naturally comes out. So with those guys, I had so much fun with those guys because of that, because I have them, and then all of a sudden
you can tell you were having fun with them.
Those guys in particular are super fun. And in the original outline, I don't want to give any spoils away. Let's talk about it next time, because I had something else happening to those guys, but then I liked them so much that I couldn't do what I had planned to do in the outline, and I would have lost. It wouldn't have made sense anyway by the time I fully developed the story through the writing process. That part didn't make sense anymore, so I had to do something that made more sense to the story and was more natural anyway. So worked out.
And that question was from Austin Whalen that you read. So thank you, Austin, for that. He's a longtime lead head, big time supporter of you, Jack Carr.
Here's this one. Yeah, should we look for Jack Carr cameo in the TV series? And that is a yes. But you never know, it's going to get edited out on the cutting room floor. But yeah.
Is it going to be a better cameo than what Marcus Luttrell had in Lone Survivor?
So it's I don't really want to give too much away because it's morphed over time, and I thought originally it was going to be just make let the author walk by in the background, and it's morphed into something a lot more than that. So I'll keep that a little more close hold though. So let it be. I think I'm going to let that one be a surprise, because if it ends up being the way that we just discussed it when I was out there in LA last week, then it should be pretty cool.
We don't want to hex it. Definitely. That was
that's right.
From Matt.
I might have to talk about it. They'll cancel that anyway.
That was from Matt Stanek. He's also at Caltech. Let's see. Iron Lord, what is your favorite location to visit while doing research for the books?
Well, I love going to Kamchatka, Russia, because I'd never been there before. That was quite the experience. But also love spending time in Mozambique, South Africa. Those are the big ones that I've been for research thus far. So I thought every book was going to get one big trip, but with COVID, that didn't happen. And luckily, this was all United States based for the most part, for the Devil's Hand. But I'm looking forward to. There's a few other places that need to open back up, so I can go do some research, and I'm really looking forward to those. But I'll keep those close hold too.
So this is a question from me, and me and a buddy were revisiting some old movies, Chuck Norris movies, those Missing in Action movies. And in our minds, as we're talking about them, we're like, these were the greatest movies ever made. So we're like, let's go watch them. So we went back and started watching them. And we're like, this isn't how I remember this movie, but still, you know.
My greatest fear. Keeps me up late at night. Not really.
Yeah.
But it is actually a fear of mine to, go back and do that to some movies or books that were so impactful back then growing up and have them have lost that magic.
Exactly. You're like, oh, I just ruined it. I should have never gone back and watched it. But the subject material, POWs, I think is something that we don't see much anymore or hear about much anymore. And I was just wondering if maybe that might be a topic you would cover in future books with James Reece.
Yeah, there's definitely some things I want to explore there, particularly with Tom Reece, James Reece's dad. I kind of left some little Easter eggs here and there, and then James Reece's grandfather with Scouts and Raiders and that sort of thing. So I left them. I described them in such a way that I have a lot of options. So I didn't make it too narrow where I couldn't go back and morph a few things over time as I more fully develop future storylines. But I think that's something that I'll explore at some point. I'd say it's a probability that I do that.
This is from Facebook. It's from Brett Bedell, and Brett asks you to share a meaningful story about a real-life unsung hero you met while on active duty. Also, what a typical loadout might be for an op.
Unsung heroes. There's so many people out there that are particularly in the space, like foundations, helping guys transition, connecting them to different companies, to do internships to see if that's really the path they want to go down. Also helping them out, get them to places that might be able to help a little bit with post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury. Or there's so many people out there that are unsung heroes, that are supporters of not just of veterans, but of freedom. So that don't have platforms or that don't, aren't out there in the public eye. That's what makes this country so strong, is those unsung heroes that are doing that day-to-day thing as citizens of this great nation. So, there's just those people that I have so much respect for, passing on to their kids and educating them in a way and exposing them to things that allow them to make decisions for future generations that allow us, hopefully, to continue to have some of those options and opportunities that we all have as citizens. So, and typical loadout is it did morph over time. So if you go and look at my Instagram, you can see some of the photos from early on in the war where I'm pretty much loaded down with a lot. So over the years, we got every deployment, every workup cycle, we got more effective, more efficient. Things got lighter. So I really slimmed down over the years as far as what I'm carrying. So that's as you can see that. So there's no really typical loadout because it depends on the deployment, the time, depends on the mission in many cases, whether it's just a sniper mission that you're going out somewhere with just a couple of guys, or you're going to hit a compound somewhere. So and you're just an hour back, or you're going out to spend like 3 days in a hide site, an urban hide site or something. Yeah. So it all depends. There wasn't like a specific thing. There's certain things that you need to have on every mission. There's that, but some of those other things change based on the mission.
Now I think Brian was going to ask this question, but I don't know if he wants to ask it or not. But I'm going to go ahead. Some of the things the details that you get into your books, like with the IEDs and some of the cocktails that you use to inject into some people, like the capsaicin one. How accurate are those, and do you leave some things out, some details out, just for that reason, so people won't go?
In particular, when I was doing the IED builds, things out. What I wanted to do was have them detailed enough so if an EOD person reads it, they're like, you know what? He didn't just get this from some other movie or some other TV show. He actually did the research. He talked to somebody that knows what they're doing. And I see what he left out here on purpose. So that's what I want when I'm doing those type of things. And I used a technique in the first book to do that by having Liz Riley looking from across the room, across this hangar, as James Reece is making this cocktail over in the corner, particularly when he gets to a more sensitive part of that. So I use that technique there. So she's kind of looking. She doesn't really know what she's looking at. She knows what he's doing, but it's not described a recipe because I didn't want some kid to go blow themselves up in their basement. And then the one from Savage Son, I'll keep that close hold on that. But that's pretty close to being. I should have probably taken a couple of things out, a couple more things out on that one. But that's a particularly vicious.
On the first interrogation or the second interrogation?
On the
Savage Son?
The second one. Yeah, which is the second one.
Savage Son was the you and Katie, I think. Not Katie, but what's the other chick?
Yeah, Liz Riley. But
Liz, yeah.
The second one. What's the second one? In there.
When's the capsaicin one? Where's that at?
Yeah, that's the only one I'm thinking of right now.
That's that one. The one I'm thinking of is in this book, Devil's Hand, where you're in the ambulance.
Each one has like one big one, and they're
different though. They're completely different too. You know.
That's right. That is it. Yeah, I was trying to think. What's the second one in Savage Son?
I mean, the second book. Yeah, it'd be the fourth book.
Yeah. But I probably should have left something out there. And even in this
probably
one,
should have.
This fourth one is pretty. It's pretty legit as far as. I mean, there's one thing that makes it a little more hard to do if someone was to actually just go through that chapter in Devil's Hand and try to do it exactly. There's one place that gets stumped on it, so
yeah,
it's a little better.
Did I ask your question right, Brian? Did I do it justice?
Yeah, more. My question was less about specifics and more about the ethics of writing and describing, tactics and methods and tactics, that kind of thing, and where, if there's a recipe or a month. Let me give you a side example. James Yeager has this amazing shoot no shoot rule. I don't know if he coined it or not, but shoot to save a life, never to take one, and you'll sleep soundly all your days.
Nice.
Isn't that, it really takes all of the legalese and boils it down to one real thing. Ask, whose life am I saving right now when I'm about to shoot? From a civilian defender standpoint, right? Yeah. And so I was wondering if there's if you have a simple rule like that for how you walk the line in giving us nerds all the juicy stuff in the Frederick Forsyth, school, while not making the Anarchist cookbook available at Barnes and Noble, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I talk about is very basic. And if it's not basic, then it's probably really not going to work. It might sound good in the book. So, going on an online RL, like that's, there you go. Taking the high ground. Okay, boom. Flanking. Like, there you go. That's everything right there. That's what you need right there. But so anything that's more intricate than that is me just imagining and working things out. So there's no secret stuff in there, because really, warfare, like anything, like a brawl, whatever, it's very basic in a lot of respects, and a lot of it has stayed the same from the beginning of time up to today. Yeah, we have some technical things that we didn't have back then that gives us some technical advantages, but also there's some counters to those. So. Mm-hmm. So, no, most of it's all from my imagination, except for that base level.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So let's do one more Facebook here. This is Corey Brown, and we'll skip through the first part of this. It says, what are the top 3 reasons to buy your book, and is China invading within the next 4 years?
Is China invading over the next 4 years? I don't know.
It is China invading over the next 4 years.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think they already have, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly. They're slowly infiltrating, maybe, which is a better way to do it.
They own half the country.
Real estate. And why should you read the books? I mean, you have to like the genre, be passionate about the genre, and want to read a story of either revenge, redemption, dark side of man, all those sorts of things that I talk about in these novels.
And if you're into kit and gear, he really gets into detail about the kit and the gear. I'm not talking about he just mentions a brand name, and he goes into detail on how it's loaded out, how it's built, how it's customized.
Well, and it's also all really top-end gear. Like, he's got Rat's tourniquets in there, which they don't cost more than other brands, but I personally think they're there are other ones that are really good, but the one that is in my wife's, handbag for if she or the kids get hurt is a rat's.
Nice.
And so yeah. And aside from Jeff Kirkham being an awesome dude, the product's really good.
Another author too.
With
the Black Autumn series.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. He came. We met not too long ago. Had a great time. But I tend to gravitate towards gear that I use, trust, enjoy. Like all that's woven in there. So, yeah. I guess a better way to say what not why you should, but if you don't like these certain things, then don't.
That's the easiest answer, right? Yeah.
I mean,
But if you're a gearhead too, a motorhead, because a lot of your characters are the vehicles that are in the novels as well. Talking about your Land Cruiser.
Yeah, just growing up with the A-Team van and Magnum's Ferrari and Crockett's Ferrari and the Simon & Simon Dodge Power Wagon and Airwolf and all these different shows had.
Kit from Night
Rider.
Night Rider?
You got Riptide and Ebtide. You got all these different shows that had vehicles or aircraft as characters. Tales of the Gold Monkey, you got that plane. So all that stuff was very impactful. So that's probably why I also use those vehicles and planes and other things as character development tools.
Will we see your actual Toyota in the TV series?
I'm going to keep that close hold. I'm going to say no.
Okay.
Because I did offer it, but they were afraid. They
Did you tell them they didn't have to pay you? You don't have to pay me.
Because they have to. Well, they need like 4 of them.
Oh.
So, yeah, just like with a pistol or something like that. I didn't know this either. You need like 2 shapes, so it just plastic ones. You need like a blank one, and then you need like a real one. You need at least
just a cameo, in the back. Maybe that's where your cameo is back there with your.
Well, Land Cruiser fans, I'll say Land Cruiser fans will be happy. That's probably the best way to.
Awesome.
What about Defender fans?
Not in the first book.
Okay. But, not in this series, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see with the second. If they do another season of it and have the second and the third novels, then for sure
they have to, because I want to see Rafe. I want to see who's going to play Rafe.
Fan favorite. So they're well aware of that, and they talk about it a lot. They're trying to figure out how they're going to deal with that in the in the series. So I don't know yet.
You seem to add a little bit of. Your own personal life into the story, and especially with family and friends. There was Ben's son, which kind of reminded me of your son.
Yeah, Fred's son, Freddie Strain. So
Freddie's son. Yeah, sorry.
That's the exact same thing that our son has, and that our family deals with. So we'll have that into the storyline as well. Kind of personalizes it, and. So that's it's very natural to put some of that stuff in as appropriate.
Yeah. What about the females? Brian had a great question about the female characters in your book.
Oh yeah. So I noticed that almost all the women in your novels are very strong. And there's only a couple notable exceptions, like Raven the stripper in book 1 that prove the exception, right? I mean, even the cocktail waitress is a high IQ individual when she slips him a knowing wink, right? Or when he says if there's any change. And even, Reese's mom in that, she's senile senile's the wrong word for it, but she's not present most of the time. And then right when he needs her, she comes through, and not in a cheesy way, with a really great Bible passage about what kind of warriors you want. And And that's in stark contradiction to most of media today, where there are very few strong people. It's all about how everybody's a victim and what their weaknesses are. And it's not like you're going overboard like a Hemingway hero, but I'm wondering if the structure of having strong women in there is on purpose, or if that's just the soup that you grew up in. Clearly your wife must be a very strong woman because you're still married, and SEAL life is notoriously difficult. And so I wonder your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so it wasn't intentional. It was all very, very natural, in that I grew up with very strong female role models with my mom, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, and especially living through the Depression for my grandmother and great-grandmother, and that was a very impactful time in their lives. so it was just natural for me to incorporate strong female characters. And looking back now, I'm glad that I did, because publishing, in my experience, is there are a lot of females in the building at Simon & Schuster. And I didn't think about that at all, but it certainly didn't hurt that when it crossed the desk at Simon & Schuster of the exact editor that I wanted, Emily Bessler, who's amazing, that I had strong female characters. And I didn't think of it that way as I was writing it. That was not intentional, but I'm very glad that that's the case. And it was just, so very, very natural for me to incorporate that based on my upbringing. I think that's really what it was. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, it comes across as genuine, and because it is. Yeah.
So I know you got other things that you got to get to here. So we'll wrap up the questions. Facebook, Instagram. If you would go on Instagram, because we're going to pick a winner for the Talking Lead AK Corner mug. We call them Leddies, Jack, because they're better than a Yeti. The Talking Leddies.
Love it.
Keeps your drinks minutes colder than a Yeti.
Hey, there you go. There you go. 30 seconds, plus or minus 30 seconds.
Exactly. It's not exact science. But if you would, go on Instagram there and pick one of those people who posted a question there, and they're going to win a nice, from Factory 47, one of the sponsors of this episode, faktory.com.
Nice. You want me to do that?
Yeah. We'll give you the honors, brother.
We're doing it now?
Doing it now.
All right, let me do it.
And that's the great thing about this is they have to listen to the show to be able to know that they won. I don't contact the winners.
Perfect. Let's see. Let's see. Let's just do it that first question. Let's do the first one that I chose when we were going through here about humor and Chris Pratt. So Austin Whalen, let's go there.
There you go. Leadhead Austin. You are the winner. Contact me, talkingled@gmail.com. Let me know that you won this, and we'll get it out to you. We'll get James over there to send that to you.
Awesome.
And you don't have Facebook up, so let me go to Facebook here, and we'll pick a winner from Facebook. You have Facebook up, Dwight?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. I thought you were waving me down there.
No.
Let's just go with the one that I read there. Corey Brown talking about is China going to invade within the next 4 years, or in the 3 reasons to buy your book. So Corey Brown.
No, but be prepared.
That is a reason for you to also go and buy his books, is you just won some Talking Lead swag.
There you go. Nice.
Corey Brown, talkingled@gmail.com. Shoot me your contact information, shirt size, etc., and we're going to hook you up with some Talking Lead swag from 1776 United, the official providers of the Talking Lead logo, classic logo, and our Leadhead Brigade logo, which I don't think I have any. Oh, here's something with the Leadhead Brigade logo on it. See that?
Nice.
So these are from Mission First Tactical. And they can ink inject that into the material so it doesn't rub off.
Nice.
So you can get your logo on there, Jack. We can hook you up and get Mission.
Yeah, maybe that looks good. I like that.
Get your big your axes on there, man.
That's right.
That would
awesome.
That would be sweet. So yeah, that does it for this episode of the Talking Lead podcast with Jack Carr. Jack, we really appreciate you taking the time to be on, especially during your book push here. I know that you got shit tons of stuff lined up and you've only got a certain amount of time to do it. So thank you for taking the time to be on.
No, thank you so much. I always enjoy talking to you guys, and much appreciated.
I had a quick question for you, Jack.
Yeah.
Is that a bottle of Horse Soldier's whiskey over your right shoulder?
So it's close. It is Hoot and Young, which are 2 Delta guys.
Okay.
So I got this into, of course, I called Larry Vickers and I was like, hey, who are these guys, just to make sure. And he's like, yeah, they're solid. And so I put this in the book, and it's in the series with Chris Pratt. So got this in there.
Sweet.
So, yeah, I like to try to help out like veteran-owned businesses and stuff like that as much as I can. So that's that. They were nice enough to send a case that I'm almost done with.
So The Devil's Hand is going to be out August the 13th?
April 13th.
April 13th. It's that other A month.
That's the one.
April 13th, The Devil's Hand, and I guess they can pretty much get it anywhere.
Anywhere books are sold. And audio, ebook, same time. And sincerely appreciate all the support. And
the podcast, give it a plug.
Podcast, Danger Close, Beyond the Books with Jack Carr. Episodes dropping every Wednesday, and that's on my YouTube channel, on Apple, and on Spotify. And I'm at Jack Carr USA on the socials. And a little more background on some of the books that influenced me over my life, and then some of the guns and gear used in the novels. They can go to officialjackcarr.com and explore around there.
And Lefty will be on there soon. Soon to come. And is there anything else? So, of course, the TV series, we don't know when that's going to be released yet, but the Terminal List, it's going to be on Amazon Prime. You guys can Google it and keep up to date. IMDb, I don't think they have anything really posted on it yet, but probably watch your Instagrams and your social medias, because I'm sure you're going to update everybody there.
As soon as Amazon lets me, I've lots to post. That's for sure.
There you go. Definitely. So there you go, guys. Go let Jack know that you heard him here on the Talking Lead podcast, how much you appreciate everything that he's doing, not only for our entertainment, but also for our 2A community.
Thank you guys for all you do for freedom. That is, I mean that sincerely. So without you out there doing what you're doing, and teaching your kids and all the rest of it, that we're not going to have a free country for much longer. So thank you for standing strong and for fighting each and every day.
Yes, sir. And as always, lead heads, keep your loved ones close.
Your firearms and Jack Carr novels closer. So,
if you ever think that you want to have a podcaster in your novels, you can pattern after me. I'd be happy to do that.
You never know. I
will give you creative license to do that. You can use me as
thank you. I appreciate it.
Die a horrible death, an evil podcaster.
Awesome.